Last year, we decided to take the conversations live on Zoom and to ask questions about the future of democracy in the post-pandemic world. We had several guests with vast expertise and knowledge of politics and culture on both sides of the ocean, artists, writers, and political commentators. This year, we will start the Havel Conversation series with a look at the Czech Republic's economy since 1989 and its future prospects for growth and taking its rightful place in Central Europe and the European Union. However, before I introduce and pass the word to our host, Czech Stack, I have to mention our disbelief and grief about the situation in Ukraine. We, as the Czechs and Slovaks, remember very well what happened in 1968 and the fact that the Russian tanks stayed in our country for 20 years. We are glad that the democratic world stands in unity in the face of an open military aggression on a sovereign country. And I'm sure that this conflict that just started will be reflected in our talk today. It is my great pleasure to welcome and introduce the host of today's talk, Mr. Czech Stack, who has joined me kindly at the Bohemian National Hall in New York. Czech has almost 50 years experience in banking. He was chair and CEO of Česká, spořitelna from 2000 to 2007. He then served as a member and chair of the supervisory board of Česká, spořitelna until 2021. He transformed the bank into modern financial services provider. Česká, spořitelna was named Best Bank by Financial Times and Euromoney, and Mr. Stack Best Banker in the Czech Republic multiple times. He obtained numerous awards, including only American to receive national medals for contributions to business and the economy from both the Czech and Austrian presidents. He is a member of the Havel Foundation Board of Directors. Czech.
Pavel, thank you. Pavla, thank you very much for that kind introduction. Today we have a panel. I'm leading the panel, and we have two main participants. Jan Švejnar is the professor of international and public affairs at Columbia University and the director of the Center on Global Economic Governance at Columbia University. He also serves as the chair of the executive and supervisory committee of GE in Prague. Tomáš Salomon is the chairman and CEO of Česká spořitelna, one of the big three banks in the Czech Republic and the largest retail bank in the Czech Republic. He is the former chairman of the board of directors and the former chairman of the board of directors and managing director of GE Capital Multiservis. Thomas is joining us from Prague, and Jan is in New York, and Pavel and I are at the Bohemian Hall. We're going to start off with opening statements from each of the participants. The first up will be Jan, and Jan, just as a lead-in, the past 32 years have brought dramatic changes to the Czech Republic. How did the Czech Republic develop from communism in 1989 to a liberal democracy and a market economy in 2022? And I am sure we could spend the whole semester on this topic, but you'll have to limit that. So Jan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you, Pavla. Tomáš, it's great to see you. Everybody who is attending. It's a real pleasure to be here. I had the great privilege that I was working as an external advisor to President Václav Havel from 1994 to 2003. And indeed, that was a period which was remarkable in what happened. But before I delve into it, let me join Pavla and everybody who is feeling the burden that Ukraine is going through right now. It's incredible, it's awful. And, our feelings, our hearts are with the Ukrainian people through the suffering that they're going through now. So that aside, let me return back to the main topic. And indeed, I think that it's amazing to see the development, what's happened in the Czech Republic. Much has been achieved. Let's recall that before and after World War II, Czechoslovakia and the Czech Republic, as it is constituted now, was one of the most advanced, industrialized countries in the world. Living standards were similar to Germany and Austria, and the country got very much pulled back during the communist rule. It's really a remarkable regression that took place then under central planning and communism, when the economy that was once developed became less developed. And that's why I think the achievement over the last 32 years is very, very impressive. The country has managed to become a functioning market economy, respected in international circles. Obviously, like as one would expect, there are issues, there are problems and so on, but it really is poised to build on the achievements that are there. It is fully integrated into the European Union. People are very well educated. Obviously, there is still reforms in the educational system that are in the process and that will make it be even better. I think the main challenge that's remaining there is to now improve the living standards to the level again of Germany, Austria, other neighboring countries. Much has been done on that front, but obviously much remains as well. And I think it's, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the role of foreign direct investment has been very good. And I think the country is indeed a great opportunity for investors to come in and continue investing. The government is very welcoming. The conditions are, good and improving. Major infrastructure investments are underway. So I think that, by way of introduction, I think the country has achieved a lot, has a rich history. In many respects, I'm mentioning the economic one, but culturally and otherwise, it is at the forefront. And I think it's poised indeed to be a juggernaut that people there and those who will come to invest and who have already invested, can attest to. So let me stop here by way of introduction and pass the baton on.
Okay. Just one administrative note. We are taking questions, and you can use the Q&A question at the bottom of the on the Zoom bottom screen to ask questions, and we will raise those with the panelists. Thomas, how would you describe the Czech Republic's economy today, and what are the prospects for its future development?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Pavla, for invitation. First of all, I'm glad to see from Prague, Jack, which is my kind of mentor, because I stepped in within a Česká spořitelna as he was still chairing the supervisory board. And I'm glad to see Jan. I have to tell you that facing currently from really a short distance what's going on within Ukraine, it is affecting daily life of all the Czechs. And not only because of the retrospective of year 1968, but there are many Ukrainians working within the Czech Republic, and there are many fears around, and you can feel it. So I think it's a tribute to Václav Havel, as Jan was mentioning, that Czech Republic is already part of NATO and part of EU. And it wouldn't happen, I'm sure, if it wouldn't be a Václav Havel's dedication and personality helping with that and fighting for that. And it reminds me today in the morning that we can talk about the economy, we can talk about standard of living, but if there is no freedom, if there is a war around, everything else is just obsolete and nonsense. Yeah, it's let's say how you rank the values, and I think we live so far within a nice times without wars, at least myself so far. But today what's going on, and it's going on pretty clear, very close to us. We just have to be very, very open and very transparent, saying what's good, what's bad, and stand behind the Ukraine. So I hope, as we will talk about the future, at least within my couple of pages, and later on, there will be no future unless there is a peace, and we will not be able to manage that. So hopefully we will. So as an introduction, and sorry for that, because we really face it today very urgently so far. So Pavla, if I can ask you to display a couple of pages, I prepared just to give you a sense of where Czech Republic stands and make it as an introduction. So I hope everyone can see it, and it's kind of signal. I know that that this shortcut of whatever can mean anything, but I mean it as what's the future? Yeah, what's the future? And within the next slide, I will give you a couple of numbers, as you can expect from the banker. This is let's say the view of comparison, and always wow. I hope you can see the right letters there, if it's okay, because my computer displays it. But if can you see it okay?
We can see
No, but the bars. We can see the bars, and the red bar is presumably Czech Republic, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I think if you can go to the next slide, if we will see if everything is bad or just this one. Yeah, but let's go back then, and I will tell you what's there. So one slide back. Yeah, this is a comparison of GDP per capita. Yeah, compared with Germany 100%, and the Czech Republic is a red bar, and we are very proud that we are really you know, converging to the let's say Germany standard, which is perceived as a really good result. However, we are slowing down, and I will tell you within a couple of next slides why. So just we are ahead of Italy, we are ahead of Spain, we are ahead of Portugal. If you will read it, we are close to UK as the Czech Republic, we are close to France, and we will, you know, hopefully get to the position of Germany. The next slide then displays, Pavla, if we can click one slide. This is another nice picture, and don't try to concentrate on the numbers on it, but look at it as a picture. And it's a comparison of complexity of Republic and Japan. And you can see that the pictures are very similar. And we are proud of that because, by the way, Czech Republic is second best in terms of complexity. It doesn't mean anything bad. It means that it's diverse, yeah, and where the GDP is coming from. So you can see that in Czech Republic, for example, the cars production is almost 10%. In Japan is slightly above 10%, and then you can compare those, you know, different color fields. And Japan is, by the way, number 3 within the world with the complexity and diversity of the. So this is a nice picture, and we do appreciate it. The next slide then is displaying let's say comparison with the Germany, and in production as such we already are on the level of Germany. What's the problem? That the margin and the value added we can produce, we are still 20% behind. So we are producing 82% only compared to Germany. And the last bar is showing what stays in Czech Republic. Of course, because we were facing inflow of international capital. So the owners are asking for dividends, but still this is the way to go. Yeah, from the production and extensive production, I think we are there. The question is, and I will touch it later on, in what kind of value add we can derive from this production. This is exactly the issue, and that's, I do believe, is our future. The next slide, and I hope it will work displaying well. Yeah, this is warning because this is a demographic curve. Yeah, and you can see where we are and how we are doing. So we cannot expect that the population among 15 and 60 years old will help us to drive the production, or so the answer is probably robotization and automatization and more investments into R&D, but we will come to that. And those funny pictures and numbers on the right-hand side of the picture are showing just again the comparison within a suite of 27 European countries, how Czech Republic stands. So within a robotization, not too good, number 13, yeah, out of 27. Affordable housing, 27, we are the last one, yeah, we are the worst one, and you have to have 15 annual average salaries in order to buy an average flat in Czech Republic. So this is something we have to work on. The down there, the number 10 is representing investments into R&D. So here is a space for improvement as well. And the share of young people with the university degree and education, believe me or not, number 22. Nothing special, and we have to improve again. The interesting is the last part, comparing the e-government and e-commerce. In e-commerce, we are, on the top of Czech Republic with not only internet access, but how people frequently use the e-commerce services, number 3, comparing to e-government, number 20, yeah, out of 27 again. So I hope it demonstrates where are the opportunities and what we can do moving forward. And the last slide, before I will close this remark, is then showing, and again, sorry for the but at least it's showing on the right, on left side, that the GDP growth, as opposed to the previous kind of period from year 2000 to 2010, where we were reaching almost 5% annual growth. Now the inflation pressures are coming once we are growing just up to 3%. Yeah, so the potential for growth is pretty limited unless we do, something new. And my closing remark, because then I wouldn't concentrate too much on the right side of the page, because this is comparing the crisis within the year 2009 with the current COVID crisis and how the government reacted with the investments. And I think it's a key for the future, and that's the answer, that unless we will really smartly invest and bring the international capital again and strengthen the local capital in order to grow and invest smartly, the bright future is pretty limited. Yeah, so we cannot. The last page is again displaying the what's the future. And my takeaway and last remark about it, what we are talking about in Czech Republic is something we call second economical transformation, which, as opposed to the first one, where we became a part of the European market and global market, and we are very glad for that, and the investments were coming from abroad. Now we have to attract locally and get, specific tasks to attract more added value. So not be a subcontractors, but invest into R&D and education and helping the Czech companies to get more value out of their production. And at the second part of the curve, not only to produce, but then self-confidently sell under ideally the Czech brand and finally get much more out of the production value. Yeah. So this is what we are concentrating. Of course, the open society, having enough labor force, even from abroad, and having a good support from the state and from, let's say, digitization and transparent governance models, that's what we need as well. So hopefully we will manage to start the second economic transformation. We are doing as much as we can. And I still believe that it is a powerhouse potentially and a bright future for Czech Republic, because we know what to address and we have to concentrate on it. So thank you very much for inviting me. And this is from my side as an opening picture of where the Czech Republic stands. So thank you very much, and we can now have a discussion about it. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Thomas and Jan. And I wanted to add a few comments, and we'll also turn to questions that have been raised. You know, my first time in the Czech Republic was in 2000, 21 years ago, 22 years ago. And looking at the Czech Republic in 2000 versus where it is today is just so dramatically different. The first transformation that Thomas talked about has taken full hold during this period when the Czech Republic was coming out of a recession in the late 90s, and then was going on a growth period, especially with joining of the EU, joining NATO, and becoming very much a modern liberal democracy with a market economy ready to compete in the world. When I think about the Czech Republic, a couple of things come to mind. One would be it's at the center of Europe. We somehow forget that. My friends in Prague always reminded me that Prague is west of Vienna, Austria. So it is geographically at the center of Europe, which has a tremendous impact on trade, about what can be exported, where it can be exported to easily, why foreign countries are very much interested in being in the Czech Republic. It has a very full functioning banking system, as Jan and Thomas referred to, very much adequate funding. The Czechs are savers, so we tend to have much more in deposits than we're able to lend out. So it's a very much a modern functioning banking system that is looking to help anyone who wants to invest in the Czech Republic, or you know, who needs funding. There are the big three banks, and then other banks that are present and very willing to help with investment. The workforce is willing and able, and getting better educated. You know, I always have been impressed with the Czech workforce and its willingness to work very hard to get projects done and to get and to service customers. And that's a big change from prior to 1989. Generally, a very friendly, business-oriented government. We can discuss interest rates and other aspects, but the government in general is very business-friendly. And it's I wanted to say a happy member of the European Union, and I think I would say that compared to Poland and Hungary, but it's a full supporter of the European Union, fully participating in the programs, and is about to take up the 6-month presidency of the EU on July 1st, 2022. And Jan referred to this. It's rich in culture. It has a history that's rich in culture. It has, you know, past moved to democracy when it was founded in, you know, in the early 20th century. And when you visit, you very much feel this richness in culture, and how much the Czech population respects it. And I've always been impressed in going to concerts in Prague, how whole families will go to concerts. And it's imbued from generation to generation. And it's something that, you know, brings happiness to my heart. It also imposes on Americans who tend to dress very sloppily at concerts, that you don't go to a concert in Prague without having a shirt and tie on for a man, or without being fully dressed, you know, from a woman's point of view. So you know, my parents were born in Ireland. I'm an American, and the Czech Republic, as my wife says, is our country by choice that we love very, very much. And I feel that it hasn't gotten its just deserves in world opinion about what it has done for a population of 10 million people, and what it continues to do and continues to improve economically. So with that brief comment on my part, we should open it up to questions. And I'll start off with a question for Jan. Jan, when the pandemic began in March 2020, it was like the world was coming to an end. And I guess I would never expected that we would be where we are today economically in the Czech Republic when we were sitting in March 2020, looking to the future. And I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Okay, I was asked by the Czech government to lead a team, the economic advisory team to the Central Crisis Chiefs of Staff, which was a mixture of army, firefighters, medical people, and so on. So for a couple of months, I worked with about 15 economists trying to figure out what measures could be taken. That later became the National Economic Council, where Tomáš and I served actually for a whole year. And we tried to indeed come up with the measures that would try to counter the devastation that the pandemic was creating everywhere.
Sure.
And we came with some measures that were indeed used. I was very impressed by the crisis chiefs of staff, how well they operated. There were obviously shortcomings in the sense that the entire government bureaucracy was not always ready for the challenge that was there. But I think that as a country, economically, we obviously went through a recession as everybody else. So in that sense, that was inevitable. But it wasn't as deep a recession as it would have been without the measures that were taken. And so in that sense, it has been the extra expenditures that were taken by the government were similar to what was elsewhere, other countries. So in that sense, the Czech Republic did not deviate in the sense of spending more or less, maybe slightly less if you want. We've had somewhat slower recovery. In other words, the Czech Republic is only now coming back, if you measure it by GDP, let's say, to the level where it was in 2019. The European Union has already reached that level on average. The United States, of course, reached and advanced much more, China as well. So there is a challenge going forward. But I think the economy survived remarkably well. There were obviously bankruptcies and so on, but not as numerous as one might have feared. Now that process may not be finished as yet. So one will see actually what will happen when all the support for firms and for households, etc., will be completed. But I would say the saddest part of the entire episode was that the Czech Republic had relatively high mortality rate. That what we didn't manage to do is to go through the pandemic with fewer deaths than we did. And so that's probably a lesson, going forward. And not because people were not willing to try very hard. I think all the medical personnel, the army, the firefighters, whoever was working, were working very hard, as were all the people in the government. It just was unfortunately a shock that was very hard to absorb in sort of with minimal losses, if you want. So I think if there is one part which was very, and is very unfortunate, is that the casualties in human lives were unfortunately, relatively high. But the country is getting out of the recession, and hopefully, barring unforeseen circumstances, and of course, the Ukrainian crisis will play its part in Europe and Czech Republic as well, economically. So, barring that, I think the economy will recover. Here, maybe I should point out that there is a very good study by an economist named Willem Semerak, who has looked at the trade of Czech Republic and Russia and European Union in general. He is at the Institute of Economic Studies and the Faculty of Social Sciences, and also at CERGI in Prague. And so the Czech Republic is not very much exposed to Russia in terms of trade. Russia accounts for about 3% of Czech exports and 3% of imports and 2% of exports. So it's relatively limited. there are certain sectors that are exposed very much at certain firms. But I think that barring an overall sort of world recession, the Czech Republic should be continue to rebound, very strongly.
Okay, thank you, Jan. We have a question from a participant. We have several questions, and so I'm going to have Pavel read the first one.
Sure. So this is a question from Mr. Jakub Hlávka. What would it take to make the Czech economy more like the Swiss, even more innovative, less manufacturing oriented?
Thomas, you want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, I do believe that it's possible, because the Swiss economy is exactly what I was talking about, really deriving the most value probably from the production, less oriented on a production as such. So I think geographically, as you mentioned, Jack, we are well located. As well, our openness, if I would say, is good and bad. And I think we are very much dependent on the open market of Europe and global open market. Yeah. So I would say investments into R&D, and I know it's Jan's favorite topic. If we really invest into a excellent research and excellent academic sphere and excellent, the best of best, then it comes back. It's unfortunately not the pills where you can see the results tomorrow, but I think long-term investment into education and investment into R&D and supporting the self-confidence of Czech, that you can not only come with the brilliant ideas, then to produce it and then sell the final product under your brand. That's exactly what will help with the convergence towards, let's call it Swiss or whatever else. But this is exactly, I don't think we can get better in extensive way of production, if I would call it this way. Yeah. So we wouldn't produce too much more, not only because of the demographic curve I displayed, but as well because there is a limited space of the resources as such and many other things which are limiting us. But the added value, if we will be able to concentrate and give to Czech companies more self-confidence that they can make it, because we have more and more positive results that it's possible. Yeah, there are companies exporting to the global economies like Linet, producing the beds for hospitals, and I can name much more. So I do believe it's possible, and I do believe it's about investments and digitization and robotization of the production as such, and self-confidence producing the final products. Yeah.
I may add just a couple points. I fully agree. I think that I would also, and Tomáš mentioned it, I would put great emphasis on excellence in everything, because the world is turning more and more like the winner takes all or winner takes almost all. And so excellence pays off. And the other thing I think where we resemble and could be like Switzerland, we're a country that's relatively compact. So unlike, let's say, Italy or Croatia, which is a country that's scattered over, thousands of kilometers, we are compact. So if one develops really good infrastructure like the Swiss have, okay, you essentially can have like one labor market or two, interrelated, intersecting labor markets. And so the economy can be very efficient if you have high quality human capital, very good transportation and other infrastructure. I think it can advance dramatically going forward. And so in that sense, I think Tomáš is absolutely right. We can be like Switzerland. I would add, we also happen to be, in terms of labor market, a little bit like Swiss. The Swiss and the Czechs, on average, have very well-functioning labor market in the sense that the unemployment rate is low, lower than elsewhere in Europe on average. It obviously fluctuates through the cycles, but tends to be low because people move efficiently from one job to another, not spending too much time in unemployment. So in that sense, the efficiency of the labor market is similar in Switzerland and the Czech Republic. So again, quite a lot of similarities and possibilities for the Czechs to resemble the Swiss, increasingly so as we develop further.
Okay, thank you.
We have another question from Carol Keeley. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it well. Jan mentioned educational reforms that are happening and still need to be installed. Could he talk more about that, please?
Sure, very briefly. Look, we have a long history of education. The Czechs are very well educated. I must say, when I, at the age of 17, ended up at US universities, I had very good educational background, so I can attest to that. But indeed, I think what we need to make sure is that the education at all levels, but at the university, in particular university level, and the research connected to it, that it becomes really excellent. Our universities still are not ranked at the same level where they should be. We don't have the Swiss ETH, the Polytechnic, which is, world jewel, right? We have good, very good sort of base, but we need to go for excellence. And so in that sense, our universities are ranked kind of 400, 500, 600 in the world, which is not where they should be. They really should be. We should have some in the first 100, 200, and hopefully like ETH, in top 20. So in that sense, we have a way to go. But I think that if, the reforms take place, I think the Czech educational system and the research can become leading. I myself started CERGI in Prague, which is an American-style graduate program in economics, and we are ranked low global level among the top economics places in the world. So it can be done. It can be done if one really wants to.
Okay, thank you, Jan. We have a question from Phil Kasich. How is the Czech Republic doing regarding vulnerability to cyber attacks on the business side, the industry side, and the commerce side? Thomas, you're very much involved from a banking perspective in that, so you may want to comment on that.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say that we are excellent. I think basically this is the global challenge for everyone. It's developing so quickly. It's one of the, I do have a privilege to be a president of the Czech Banking Association as well. This is our topic, almost number one, because the attacks or any kind of risk are very much moving to this cyber security area. So I think, and I displayed within a couple of numbers, that generally the population is pretty well educated and compliant with the e-commerce stuff. However, it's never enough to remind them that they should be very, very careful about what's going on. I think the education of end user is the best first line of defense in that sense. And here I think it's challenge of the global size rather than anything else. So from technology point of view, I don't think we are so vulnerable, because most of the companies are really using the edge technology as it's developing pretty quickly. And here I don't see too big, let's say, gap. However, the basic education and let's say risk of the end user being naive in a way, I think that's the big challenge. But I don't think we deviate too much as a Czech Republic. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. This is a question from Jan Smilik. Jan points out that he's a fellow graduate with Tomáš Salomon from FESCR. So you're both alumni. Jan is writing from Washington, and of course you're in Prague. And the question, though, I think I'm gonna have a Jan.
Yeah, but
well, go ahead, Thomas. All right. The question is.
No, fine. Greetings to Jan. Really long time no see. Yeah.
Okay. And here's a question from Jan that Professor Švejnar will take a look at. My questions regarding today's topic: what is the prospect of the Czech Republic adopting the euro? What are the complexities and the benefits of having the Czech crown versus having the euro?
Look, this is a big topic. I must say that the discussion in the Czech Republic indicates that there are adherents on both sides. I happen to share the view that it would be desirable to enter the Eurozone. The Czech National Bank, the central bank, already 2 decades ago declared that the Czech Republic has pretty much satisfied the conditions for entry. so that it's not a question of not being ready. It's a question of really being willing to sacrifice the ability to run independent monetary policy, okay, and be part of the Eurozone. So I'll just tell you very briefly why I think it would be desirable if we are ready. It is, there are costs, transaction costs in not being part of the Eurozone. There is, substantial, and Tomáš can talk about it. The banks do collect fees for, converting currencies. So both businesses and people would have lower costs if that happened. The Czech Republic, unlike, let's say, the southern countries, is pretty much in line economically with Germany, Austria, these types of more northern countries. So the European Central Bank being, very much sort of under the control of countries that are in the central and northern part, the Czech Republic, could be within the Eurozone functioning well. It wouldn't be like Greece or, Italy, who may have problems being in the Eurozone. So the question is, given all this, and of course for foreign direct investment, it's important as well, because the investors who come from the Eurozone, and if they look at Slovakia and Czech Republic and everything else equal, they obviously will prefer to go to Slovakia because there is no currency risk. There is no risk that the exchange rate will fluctuate. And as we look over the last, just several years, 3-4 years, the crown to euro exchange rate can move quite substantially, 27 to 24. I mean, it's a big deviation. So for these reasons and, some others, it may be, desirable. But I think those who argue otherwise are saying, look, it's useful to have the extra economic lever of monetary policy, right? The state, the government, as we call it in the West, but the state in Czech language, has two big economic levers. It has the fiscal policy, it's the Ministry of Finance, and it has the central bank, the monetary policy, right? And those can really move the economy, both in the good and in bad direction, depending on how these policies are used. So giving up the monetary part obviously means that you're left with the fiscal lever. And so that is the trade-off indeed.
Okay. Thomas, any?
Look, maybe adding a practical.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe adding a bit practical, because I cannot add too much to Professor Švejnar. Yeah, yeah, Jan, fully agree. Look, it's not avoidable. Yeah, sooner or later, Czech Republic will arrive to Eurozone. As Jan mentioned, we are economically ready. There is no, bird with that. However, it's about political will. Yeah, and there are pros and cons. And as we are export-oriented company very much, the exporters are really calling for that and asking for that. But with the stability and with the, let's say, kind of future of EU, there were questions around Brexit and so on and so on. So I think it's really about the political will and brave decision of political representation sooner or later, saying, here comes the time, and within 3-4 years we will get there. Yeah. So I think it's really a question of time only, and from economic perspective, it's ready to be done. Yeah. So there is nothing what avoids us to join the EU zone. So let's see if the politicians will make this decision and when. Yeah. But from that point of view, I think it will be even beneficial. Yeah, because there are pros and cons. But I generally think that talking about this future, what I displayed, I think it's unavoidable, and we should get there. Yeah.
Yeah. You almost would, talking about the future, you spoke about, Thomas, you'd almost have to have the euro, especially from an export-oriented country. Yeah. You'd almost have to. Yeah. Absolutely. The next question is from Eugenia Askren, who used to work with me. Eugenia and I worked together at Česká spořitelna. And the question is, what has devalued the appreciation of university education? Is there an increased interest in technical training? And this gets, I think Jan commented on it, how we don't have a top flight university that's ranked in the top 100 in the world. And it's just, is there something that has devalued a university education, that people move more towards technical training, or anything else that could pop to mind? Maybe Jan could comment, and then Thomas could comment.
Yeah, I'll just start. Look, I should say there are individuals and there are teams that really are top notch. So in that sense, we should recognize that, right? It's just that as entire institutions, the universities have not really managed to operate in such a way that they would have the excellence throughout and therefore have the high ranking that's desirable. Connected with that, again, the research, which is, obviously the excellence of universities, it derives from research, from high quality research. And that is very important, because that then has applications, as Tomáš mentioned, in the applied parts of the economy. The inventions lead to innovations, right? The best economic research leads to good economic policy, which then stimulates everything, and growth is faster and living standards improve and so on. So it's all interrelated. I think that it's again a question of political will to have the reforms carried out that I think people are capable and will adjust to the direction, the sense of direction in terms of going for excellence. And there is no reason why we couldn't do it. As I say, individuals and teams are like that. So at the level, we see it at the micro level, and there is just a question of bringing all the institutions to the high level, or at least some of them, and it can be done. So it's not something that cannot be done. I think it can be done.
Okay. Thomas?
Yeah, I would just add that the risk is rather, from my point of view, the mediocrity, the being satisfied with the average. I fully agree. I think we do have a very nice history and tradition within the technical education as such, and it's still there. But the most of the universities are rather average, if I would say so, and we need an excellence. Yeah, we need an excellence in that, and I fully agree with Jan saying, the world is turning into the winner takes it all. So we either, so this is point number one, to really invest and be, in excellent league of the universities. And the second is then to connect the university research with the practical applications from business. Yeah, and that's where we can get better, much better than up to now. Yeah, there are universities within Europe and within the world which are investing and putting the patents on, and I think we should have ambition to get better in that way. Yeah, so this is where we can get back the investments in that sense.
Yeah, if I may just interject, I think that Tomáš is absolutely right. And given that I work both in the United States and Czech Republic in this university setting, I can attest that one of the strengths of the American model is that the businesses work very closely with the universities, right? And so knowledge is spread, it goes both directions, the stimulus goes both ways. And that's where I think the Czech system has, major room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Rick Graber, the former American ambassador to the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic will soon have a new president. Can the bully pulpit that comes with the office be helpful in advancing sound economic policies?
So first of all, say hi, Rick. It's been great, and thank you again for having served in the Czech Republic. I remember those days, of course, vividly. And yes, I think you're right. I think the head of state can have very important, even if not fully direct, influence. But the president has direct powers as well. The president nominates the governor of the central bank and the governing council. The president, with the approval of the Senate, nominates the top military, legal, judges, and so on and so forth. So in addition to giving sort of the weight of the office of the highest constitutional, official, the president certainly can have a very positive effect. So I think that the selection of the next president is an important step in, Czech economic, political, social, cultural development. So absolutely, I think you're identifying a very important sort of next process.
Yes. The next question is from Matthew Fila. Is there a list of Czech Republic corporations that trade on the international equities exchanges, such as the DAX, the FTSE, CAC, and the New York Stock Exchange? Thank you. Regards, Matthew Fila, and part of from Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know of any such list, but I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think there were American depository receipts, right? So some companies would be trading effectively on the New York Stock Exchange through those, and my sense was that some were maybe in London as well, but I haven't really checked.
Look, I'm not aware of such a list, and thank you for this input, because we are currently, as a part of the second economic transformation, discussing how we can make the local capital markets stronger. And I think this can help, because it's spread it as companies are making a decision where they want to become listed. And the local capital market is really weak. Yeah, that's what I would say from that point of view. And we have to concentrate how we can raise the capital. It's not only possible to finance it through the loans and banking instruments. It needs a stronger capital market, and here we have to. So thank you for this input, because let me think about how to maybe help with making it happen and available. Yeah, this would certainly help. Yeah.
And Thomas, I think you would agree that the weakness of capital markets is not only in the Czech Republic, but generally in Central and Eastern Europe, especially compared to the United States. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's right. You name it. If you remember, within an introductory section, Jack, you said you call us savers. Yeah, we've got a lot of savings, and we are a saving bank, the Česká spořitelna, and we are full of deposit. We are flooded by deposits, and we are actually educating people how to invest smartly and not risk too much according to their investment appetite. But that's exactly what we are. Yeah, and it's not Czech specific. It is broadly within a Central Europe, I would say. However, the history of investments is very young. Yeah. And unfortunately, some of the first attempts of investments were not all the time successful as it goes. So it's about advising people well, professionally and right, and making local companies being more self-confident into going public and issuing their shares. So that's it. But you described it well, and you still remember. You know that. Yeah. That this is what we are. Yeah.
Fair enough.
If I may correct me if I'm wrong, but my sense is also that from the standpoint of the savers, we don't yet have a developed system where we have low-cost index funds with high diversification, the way Fidelity or Vanguard are offering internationally, right? Why is that?
Yeah, actually, it's getting better. It's about instruments and the tools we are working on, and we are getting better. But the options are limited. You are right. Yeah, it's still not so developed as within the US. Definitely, we are far from US standard, I would say. And even comparing with other EU countries, we can get better much more. Yeah, you're right.
We have a question from Melanie Javorova. How do you plan to compete with China regarding the costs? The production costs in the Czech Republic are still very high. Do you have a strategy? Thank you.
Well, if I may, I think that Tomáš actually mentioned in the introduction, and we've sort of developed it throughout. If you have excellent education, excellent research, and excellent application in the economy as a whole, given how diverse we are, as he showed in the diagram, we can really compete very effectively. Just go into those areas where the excellence that we have pays off, where there is high return, and the Chinese wages are rising as well. So China is no longer the low-cost producer it used to be. It's now Vietnam, Bangladesh, and so on. So I think through excellence, we can be very competitive, even with high salaries and high return on capital. So that goes back to the point that we're stressing, that the next phase of development of the Czech Republic should go in that direction.
Okay.
Look, it's absolutely on spot. I think it's rather a global question, and not only for Czech Republic, how to other economies as well can stay competitive. Just to compare with you, I do have a couple of numbers here. China is actually having 50% more robots per employee than within the Czech Republic. Of course, we are not excellent, but don't believe that the China is still like a low income workers based economy. Yeah, they are technically much more advanced than most of EU economies, and in robotization they did fantastic job so far. So I think the competitiveness with China is a big question for the global trade as such, and we are not excluded. This is not a defensive answer. I think the digitization and robotization is the answer, and let's say smart investments into R&D. But I think staying competitive with China is really a challenge. Yeah, they are not a low cost producer kind of anymore only. Yeah, only. So yes, good question.
Yeah, and again, going back to our discussion from a broader perspective, the Chinese had no universities that were really very good. They now have universities that are in the top 100, and there is even one or two in the top 50, which is amazing. So if we are in 400, 500, 600, you can see, what a difference there is.
We're running out of time. So we're just going to ask one more question. And I apologize for that. We just don't have enough time to cover all the questions. The question is the Czech, this is a little bit long question. The Czech nation carries a very rich and diverse political patrimony, quasi-Slavic, quasi-Germanic, quasi-European, quasi-Christian, quasi-communist. Can you elaborate how these different ideologies, different ideology strands mesh fortuitously with each other to maximally boost the economic potential of the Czech Republic? I think I'll take a crack at that. I think what was asked is absolutely correct. What was stated was absolutely correct. It is a melding. It is a coming together of all of these different strands of political discourse, of political thought processes, of economic, and that's one of the things is a strength of the Czech Republic, I believe, because it ends up with something that is quite good and works very well in today's kind of market economy and a liberal democracy. And it leads to a great openness of looking out and trying to understand all of these different strands. So without elaborating in detail, I would say, yes, that's true, and it's good. And it is not a hindrance, and it's something that that the Czech Republic aspires to. On that note, I'd like to thank Thomas and Jan and Pavla. It's been an interesting discussion, and I do think, the future as you look at the Czech Republic is very bright. Just as it's been bright for the past 20, 30. It hasn't been bright for the past 32 years, but it's much more. I think today there have been ups and downs over the past 32 years, but much more today, I think, on an upward slope. And as with all of us, I think we all have heavy hearts about the Ukraine, and our discussion today was important. But what's going on in the Ukraine is much more important and can stop whatever progress is being made throughout the world. So our hearts go out to the citizens and people of the Ukraine. Thank you very much. for participating, and we'll be in touch about our next Havel conversation.
Jack, thank you very much. Thank you, Tomáš and Jan, for your deep insights, not only into Czech economy, but into education, research, and many other connected fields. We are really proud that you made time to be with us. I would like to also thank all our participants who have been following us. This webinar has been recorded and it will be placed on YouTube, so more people will be able to see it. We are of course non-profit, so please support us. You can still do that today on Eventbrite or through the Václav Havel Library Foundation website. Also, very briefly, I'd like to invite you to our next live events that will take place in April. There will be stage readings of Central European plays at the Bohemian National Hall in Manhattan. And of course, as Jack, I will have to finish saying that we know that people in Ukraine are not fighting just for the freedom of their country. They are fighting for the freedom of democracy around the world. They are fighting for Czechs and Slovaks, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with them today and in the next day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing that, and